2 minutes in, I think I've lost him. Lewis, call this a top secret location in Cheshire?
Yes, extremely top secret.
It is.
A bit like wearing an old pair of socks if you know exactly what it does and it's comfortable. You like to stick with it. As I said, yeah, I am the type of man who gets excited by this sort of stuff. So, yeah. Literally here.
Got it, bang on.
Yeah.
Right, so we must be over here then. Right, so you join us in a relatively, should we call this a top secret location in Cheshire?
Yes, extremely top secret.
It is, yeah, we don't tend to sort of advertise where these are, but today we're in some breeders' trials looking at new maize varieties, and today I'm joined by, for the first time on these videos, somebody else, and this is Lewis. Lewis, say hello to everybody.
Nice to meet you all.
So Lewis, who are you, what do you do?
So I'm Lewis Dean and I am the UK Seeds Manager for Elsoms Seeds. So we are an independent plant breeder from the UK, based in Spalding in Lincolnshire.
Yeah, okay. And what are we doing today? What have you brought me along to have a look at?
So we've come along today to look at some existing lines of ours and some new lines here in a maize trial in Cheshire, and it's just to sort of iron out if there's any of our new material that looks exciting to a partner like Agri, and just to kind of get an idea of how things have established, have a look at some early vigour, yeah, and work our way through
to see how the varieties are looking.
The next big thing, yeah.
Ideal. Now, for the purpose of this site, it's actually quite sensitive information that's collected here, so we won't necessarily be talking about varieties specifically, especially the control varieties, but also the new line varieties that we're going to be looking at. In actual fact, even if we did tell you what they were, they're probably not going to be of much use. For the first 2 to 3 years, varieties before they are given a name, such as we know in the UK market now, are actually codes. So for the first 2 to 3 years, we have to memorise these varieties by codes before they then actually are given their full name before they reach the UK market. Now, from the face of it, this field just looks like the average maize field as you drive past it. But as you can see, it's far from it. Sites like this are throughout the UK and they require significant time and money invested into them, both by breeders but also the R&D technicians that help run them. Across the UK, they contain thousands of plots of maize varieties, all replicated to give as much technical information and advice to UK growers for what the maize varieties can offer them in terms of performance. As ever with these trials, the first big task is actually finding them within the field. I think we found them, mate.
Yeah, let's have a go then.
So where we are today, this is actually part of the national overall picture in terms of official trials for seeds, isn't it? Especially, obviously, the maize varieties. So as I say, where we are at the moment within this block, this is all breeder-led material, looking at varieties for the future. The field over the back there, that's where there's all the replicated plots of all the existing varieties in the UK market that are used to basically collate all the national list data that UK growers use to select their varieties every year. Two minutes in, I think I've lost him. Lewis?
Shout, literally here.
Got it, bang on.
Yeah.
Right, so we must be over here then.
So we are. We are here.
Ideal. So even though you get a map with these plots, they're not always the easiest maps to read. I think we're getting there, aren't we?
So yeah, so that's a control variety that we've put in. So something. So
Yeah.
when we say control variety, so we'll put in lines from other breeders as well, or
Yeah.
lines that are well established. So so we can market leaders basically. We've got to put the best in to see if our varieties are going to stand up to it in order for us to progress them.
Yeah, because ultimately that's what we're looking to achieve, aren't we? Whether it be ourselves, yourselves, or UK farmers. Oh, hello. My battery might have died in my gimbal, Lewis. This isn't very professional, is it? Right, gimbal's packed up. So yeah, we were just saying that the most important part is, of course, is having these trials to assess these varieties. is looking for progression all the time, isn't it?
Yeah, of course, because at the end of the day, we want to bring the best stuff through for farmers. We want it to perform on farm. That is what's really important. With all businesses and all commerciality, there's costs behind it.
Yeah.
So you've got to make sure your costs are invested in the right material to bring forwards.
And this is where, for maize in the UK compared to the likes of cereals in the UK, this is where the descriptive list is a little bit different, isn't it?
Yes.
And also grasses as well, because it is a descriptive list. Technically, if a variety isn't necessarily better than the varieties that are already on the existing list,
yes,
they can get on, can't they? Whereas
yes.
in cereals and grasses, they do have to be specifically better than the existing varieties to get on.
I would agree with that statement.
So trying to pin these varieties down to show that difference is really valuable, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly so. And like I said, for you, you're getting an early eye in here on some lines that you can sort of plant the seed in your mind to say this
follow
is one for me to follow it through for 2 or 3 years, and then time you get to selling that on farm, you've got a good idea yourself of what this variety is going to do. And
also conversely though, for you as breeders, because having these plots, doing this work, running these varieties isn't a cheap hobby to do. It takes investment.
Yeah, of course it does.
So if you're identifying varieties on the other side of that are never going to make the UK market, are going to be no use, you can cut them dead early doors rather than carry them forward and never get anywhere with them, can't you?
As I said, the art, is much like yourselves, it's a business at the end of the day. So we've got to make sure we're commercialising the best varieties that are going to perform for farmers. Yeah.
You found them?
Yeah. So first one, and we are in Rosa Falls. Look.
Perfect. Yeah. So all the varieties in any official trials are all planted in rows of 4 with little pegs between them. And what the plan is at harvest is actually it's only ever the middle 2 rows are taken. So overall, for breeders such as yourselves, utilising plots like this, I mean, first instance for you, what are the biggest benefits of having access to plots like this and the importance of it?
Well, as we say, the importance of it is for screening those early lines. Yeah. Whereas obviously, as I said, historically we worked off sort of European data and European lines, so we can actually see how it suits the UK and different sites across the UK. Yeah. You'll obviously be able to explain to the viewers. Obviously, we're looking at different sites, so we have favourable and less favourable. Yeah.
So this obviously this site here where we are today in Cheshire this is one of multiple sites, isn't it, around the UK that give that diverse level of information that we need for maize.
Definitely.
For both a favourable and a less favourable region.
Yeah, because the idea with the maize is there's going to be different mazes to suit different jobs.
Yeah.
So that's why the likes of yourselves and us now as a breeder, we're trying to build a bigger portfolio so we can appeal to the across the different regions, get the right maize on your farm that will work for you. Yeah. Because they all do very different jobs. They're all going to perform better in different areas. So by having a number of locations across the UK, and obviously we'll have a big tour in September, which you'll probably be on as well.
Where
we'll travel around a number of trial sites. And some varieties look great in places, not so good in others, and it allows us to balance it out. So when you're going on to farm to sell it, you can really tailor that to what the farmer needs.
Yeah. So also for me, from a distributor's point of view, having access to these plots and obviously being part of the wider BSPB maize group as well, not only are you seeing and getting the information from these varieties, but like you say, you tend to look at maize varieties, assess them a couple of weeks before harvest, but actually, as you'll have seen from my previous clips on my own demo sites, learning how these varieties react and respond all the way through any season, especially early doors, is great to see. But as Lewis says, having access to these varieties as to how they perform probably 2 to 3 years before they're brought to the market commercially, we're not having to get to a point where you come to us and say, look, we've got this new variety, it's now on the descriptive list, and we have to learn about it then and move forward for the UK market with it then. We already know it inside out.
Yeah, definitely. So it gears you up to help you to sell it. It helps us to understand how it's going to perform across a number of years and different weather conditions. Obviously this year has been an exceptional year for sort of sunshine.
So far, and
we've not had the moisture we would normally want, so we can kind of see the varieties that have thrived and performed in these conditions. Likewise, we saw it probably last year before last, we've had the opposite, where we've had more water than we probably ever had, so it's to get an idea of what sort of performed in there.
And it's building that resilience into these varieties, isn't it? So that they do perform on whatever year that Mother Nature happens to throw at us.
Yeah, we want to pick out the balanced varieties that sort of handling all conditions, so that when it's actually in farm on a commercial basis, the farmer's got peace of mind that what they're putting in, they're going to get it back out at the end of the day.
No, definitely.
And then at the start of a new one again here, I think, isn't it?
That one it will be now. Yeah.
1, 2, 3, and 4. Which, in fairness, the front rows, it's hard. It doesn't look like it's got them as well. That is one of the earlier lines. This is 180. This is one of our earlier ones.
Right. Yeah.
12 was a variety we've actually had in the market for quite a while.
Yeah.
So we've had that now for, I think it's 4 or 5 years actually in the market. It's one you'll have seen before as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Historically, it's probably performed better on the favourable sites.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So
for more.
Yeah.
The bit more heat, bit more. Better conditions weather-wise throughout the season. Yeah.
So that's where it's kind of excelled itself.
Yeah.
That's quite a tidy following. So, you'll know with maize, if growers like something, they tend to stick with them.
Especially over the last few years. I mean, maize can be quite a fickle crop at times.
Yes.
And then when you chuck in the curveballs of the last 2 seasons that we've had in particular, then if you find a variety that works and fits for you, then you're going to be loath to change that unless the wheels really fall off, isn't it?
Of course,
yeah.
Of course. But this is like I say, when we're talking about why we trial, this is the reason. There's a variety here that we understand the growth habits of.
Yeah.
We know how it performs on farm, not just in a trial condition. So we know what we're expecting to see with this. So we can gauge if it's a unique year, because obviously it's a variety we know the look of. So if it's doing something different, it could be due to heat or wet and something we've not seen before.
Yeah.
And then obviously for us, it's really easy to score and look at new varieties against what we know to see what we've got, whether it's an improvement on what we've already brought forwards or whether...
And that's actually a point that I made on the last video I did, with encouraging growers, if it is that they are looking to grow or have decided to grow a new variety, is to actually put that new variety physically alongside their existing variety in the same field. Having them just over the hedge just isn't quite the same. And as you say, there's so many differences in terms of, weather patterns and things like that, these varieties can blip a little bit. And we need to understand as to why that's happened, don't we?
Definitely. Totally echo your advice of putting varieties alongside in the field, because if it's something that is, a bit like wearing an old pair of socks, if you know exactly what it does and it's comfortable, you like to stick with it, don't you? Sometimes switching varieties can be a bit daunting.
Yeah, but, it can.
I think sometimes you've got to just have a jump, haven't you, and have a look at something. And I'm not saying put your whole farm down to it.
No.
At a scale, you need to have a go. Yeah.
So not only are we going to be looking at agronomic traits and overall performance from these varieties, but also maturity will be a big thing. I know we're looking at these now, but also later on in the season to see what maturity is looking like.
Yes, definitely. So I think one thing that's noticeable for you'll have worked closely with breeders. Obviously, most maize is bred in Europe, I would say, for us. So that's why we bring it here to see how it performs in the UK, and it allows us to get an accurate reflection of what the maturity is going to be in the UK.
Right, okay.
So obviously we commonly operate off the FAO numbers.
Yes.
So when you're advertising a maize with Agri, you'll provide an FAO number for when that maize is due to come to its maturity and be fit for harvest, and the number of days it obviously is going to be in the field for. I think for us, something we learned quite quickly is the conditions in Europe are quite a bit different to ours.
Yeah.
So sometimes some of the material we'd bring across that in Europe would be a 230, 240 even, might be a 210, 200 in the UK.
Yes.
So it's important for us to test it here so we can actually give the farmers a true reflection of what it's going to do on their farms.
And I think that is, again, from a distributor point of view, but also you as UK growers, that's critically vital actually, is looking at securing that information around varieties from a UK basis, because as you say, that European data just unfortunately isn't translatable, is it, in many cases?
No, and that's why, as we said, the reason we have, so this is a private trial, so this is one obviously that we've put out ourselves, and then you've got the main sort of descriptive list trials, which most growers will be familiar with. They'll see the maize descriptive list and the recommended varieties.
The information from that,
by doing this year on year and at multiple locations, it allows us to build a robust data set.
Yes,
so then we can actually provide farmers with really accurate information. I think
UK data for UK farmers.
Precisely.
Are we lost?
No, we're not lost.
You sure?
Sure, Ben, I'm sure.
Promise?
I promise.
Does look good, that one, doesn't it?
Yeah, looks tidy. So, there was a little bit out in the market last year, and that was just due to the line we selected, and obviously it was in Europe, so not as much seed is available to us in the UK. So it's a
Yeah,
case
it's
of
first time round.
yeah, ramping it up now to have more seed here. So
But no, it does
yeah.
look smart though, doesn't it?
Looks tidy, yeah.
Be excited with that one?
I'm
Is it
very
a promising
yeah,
one?
as I said, yeah, I am the type of man who gets excited by this sort of stuff. So yeah, it does.
You
have
and
a
me
bit of
both,
promise.
mate. You and me both.
Yeah, easily switched on. Aren't we? Easily switched on. Yeah.
No, it's a good looking variety, and again, you know, straight away early doors. Again, I know a lot of people would think about maize trials as being useful a couple of weeks before harvest, but actually you can tell so much about these varieties from such an early stage, can't you?
Yeah, definitely, especially if you've, you know, there's a lot of people out there who've grown maize for a very long time and have their eye on it. You get a feel early for what you like, isn't it?
But also I think it's because maize being one of those crops whereby, you know, you do all your groundwork, do all your preps, do your pre-emergence, get everything sorted, do post-emergence, then as a crop you can't really do a great deal with it after that. So it's sort of, you know, I quite often think maize crops can be perhaps a bit forgotten about because, you know, you get them at this height in a commercial. I mean, we've got a lovely path up and around here for us to walk around in, but ultimately they're a flipping nightmare to walk around, aren't they? So you don't necessarily spend so much time with the crop that you can't really get around in many ways.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair to say. That's fair to say. It is a passion, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It is.
It's a passion. Yeah,
and I think out of all the crops, actually, maize is probably the most emotive one.
Oh, without doubt.
You know, it is the one that everyone looks over the hedge at, compares at.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
And because it is ultimately a tropical crop, it is also the one that can spit its dummy out every now and again. And unfortunately, it is one of those crops, if it isn't your year, it shows you as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Again, that's why it comes down really important to varietal selection. So, as we said, looking at the different conditions and stuff, we want to bring the most robust varieties through so that the farmer's got that bit of
try and mitigate that.
Exactly, peace of mind and protection. You know, genetics are improving all the time. I think maize is a crop against, if you look at cereals, for example, I think maize is on a rapid progression.
Yeah.
So I think you know, in terms of yields. You know, and sour wall digestibilities now we're making more focus on that, getting the right proteins, energy for your cows. You know, I think now, exactly, the data we're looking at is improving all the time. We're always bringing better stuff through. Whereas sort of other crops that I would work with as well, I work a lot with cereals. It's the gains now are marginal year on year, particularly with yields. Obviously, disease-wise, we're putting in good packages. With maize, they're still making that rapid progression.
No, definitely.
Especially in the earlier stuff. I mean, the earlier stuff historically was finishing early, but the yields were way behind. Now they are starting to catch up, aren't they?
And that's where we've seen a big switch into the early varieties because we're getting this more yield from them now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, cool.
Right, well, there we are. Thanks, Lewis, for having me along today. And
you're most welcome.
It will be something that we'll hopefully follow up, and we'll do a bit of a roundup towards the other end of the year when most of these sort of plots are assessed. But yeah, really valuable day, and thanks for having me along. And
no, you're welcome. It's as I said, it's really key to get this early assessment in. So we've picked out a few lines we maybe like the look of. We can have a revisit in September.
Follow those through and see how they look.
Yeah, when we're getting near to the forager going in. And then we can make our mind up if the selections we made were good choices or not, can't we?
Let's just, fingers crossed, I know we've got the conditions now, but let's just, fingers crossed, those conditions carry on till harvest time and we have a lovely harvest for a change, eh?
Yeah, totally true. Yeah, best of luck to you all at harvest time, and I hope you have a good growing season.
Cheers, Lewis. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed this, as ever, please like, share, subscribe and click that little bell, and I'll see you for next one. Bye for now.